you think is the area in which large Costa Rican firms are lagging the most in their way to becoming top competitors in world markets?
Costa Rica has gone through a very deep transformation, economic transformation in the last years. We're coming from a very agro-centered economy, and we're moving towards a much more knowledge-based economy. So multinational firms in Costa Rica are operating in both worlds, are operating in the classic agro business, but also in the new areas. My relationship with them is more into all these knowledge-based economy areas. What we see is that there are a number of very important elements that are key for them to compete globally. First is human talent. And so the country has become a good source for bring human talent to these multinationals and help them to compete in a better way. Second, it has to do with all the ecosystem that where they operate. This is extremely important because in the age of global value chains and regional value chains, the companies required to work together. They need relationships, they need linkages among them. And the country must facilitate that. So I think that companies, multinational companies, large multinational companies, have more and more incentives to work in an ecosystem environment and work together and identify where there are gaps, where there are areas they can jointly help the local ecosystem to improve. Second, I think it's very important the public-private partnership. The responsible conduct codes that OECD, for example, is promoting and social responsibility programs are extremely important. Focus on areas in which enterprises, large enterprises, have ability to provide sustainable elements to those ecosystems. So I think those are probably the main three areas in which I see them focus in order to have a better competition. And this, of course, triggers productivity for them, which is at the end the name of the game.
Should governments help large firms innovate, or should that be a task for the private sector alone?
Well, in the knowledge-based age, government must have an active role. And has to have an active role because multinational companies usually bring innovation on their own. But if we don't integrate them with the local economy, with the local ecosystems, and if we are not able to share that innovation and methodologies, knowledge in general, new technologies, and share those elements with local firms, for example, the benefit of the operation of these large multinationals in our countries will not be as deep as they should. In the case of Costa Rica, for example, we have a very interesting story here to tell. We have around 300 multinational companies which operate in our free trade zone regime. And we actively are working with them for the last 15 years to integrate them with the local companies. So the result of that is that they are doing business with 10,000 local companies. These 10,000 local companies have raised their standards, have reached certifications, have received a lot of technology, have invested a lot in innovation in order to be prepared and be at the level that these multinational companies require for them to provide them. And it's very common that one of these companies start providing services to one multinational company, and then it goes for a second one and a second one. And finally, what we're building here is 10,000 indirect exporters that are exporting their goods and services through multinational companies that are using those inputs into their production. So I think, and this is not, it's not just spontaneous. the government must have an active role. We are putting money on there. We are not only bringing them together, but also we are creating programs to help SMEs to link with multinational companies. We're providing funding for these SMEs to get prepared and to do all the transformation that they require.
Does Congress and judges share your view?
I will say that gradually the entire state and all government bodies are sharing the view. Legislation sometimes it's hard to move ahead. It's hard to change. So, and legislation is in many of our countries an issue because we tend to be over-legislated. And the procedures that we have to change laws is usually very slow. So I don't think it's easy for the judicial system to understand all these new areas, but they gradually are moving into that. And Congress members, probably it's a very different situation because they have a lot of pressure from their constituencies. And private companies and productive sectors are gradually more and more active constituencies for their in the jurisdictions. So I think that that gradually we see significant change, and what we are telling them is in areas where we know it's going to be a very fast change in technology, etc. Please don't legislate with laws. Let us keep, frameworks more flexible. We should put policies in place. We can put, some other regulation that can be easily transformed as the reality, as the market moves on.